Today, my talk is going to be about how you can make sure that your expat experience will be a successful one. Some of these points I've probably mentioned before in the past in one or two videos, but I think it's like something that is obviously a big thing, and it's something that worries a lot of people. I've been getting emails of people asking me, how can I make sure that expat, my expating is going to be successful after leaving the country? It's a hard question to answer, but I think there are some things you can prepare that you can do to prepare yourself for a good experience outside of your comfort zone. I think the first thing in preparing to make your experience unique and wonderful is, and I hate to say this, but I think getting rid of your uppityness, that's a word I just made up. Uppityness is like thinking that you're better than everybody else and you're so uppity you can't even see, what's in front of you. A lot of people think, especially when they're coming from first world countries, that they're so much better than everybody else, which is not true. So when you have your mindset in that I'm better and so I can adapt to whatever else and everybody else needs to adapt to me, I think that is like a surefire sign of failure. So the first thing to do is to get rid of your uppityness. And I hope that word catches on because I think it's a really good one. So you need to just have an open mind. When you get to where you're going, you have to remember that you're a guest in somebody else's country and you're not the grand poobah. You are just another person there, and you're actually almost lower on the totem pole because it is their country, it is their culture, and you have to blend in. They don't have to like change to the way you think, which leads me to the second point. You have to be willing to learn the language. You don't have to be amazingly great at it, but you have to make the effort to learn the language. Now, a lot of places, even in Spain and Italy, and you can get away with not knowing the language if you live in particular enclaves where it's a lot of expats living there, so you can get away with that. But it doesn't make for a great experience. And it was one of the things I know I definitely talked about in a previous video. But it seems to still be something that people ask all the time. Can I get away with not speaking English, with not speaking Spanish? Can I get away with not speaking, Chinese or whatever? Yeah, you can get away with it for the most part, but will it be a great experience? Chances are it will not be. You really need to make the effort. And like I said, you don't have to be like the best speaker of all. You just have to make the effort and people are willing to help you. Because, chances are if you say, do you speak English to the first person you meet? They're going to say no. And it's probably one of the reasons why everybody says, oh, French people are so rude, blah, 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 blah. But if you go up to someone in their own country and then ask them if they speak your language, I mean, it doesn't bode well. When somebody else asks you, when you're in the US, like, I know it happens a lot of times. When somebody asks you, do you speak French? Like if a French person asks you in Los Angeles, if you speak French, what are you going to say? No. And then you're going to be like, yeah, why can't you speak my language? So it's the same when you're everywhere else. So you cannot expect them to know. It's a great thing if they do know, but if they don't know, then you have to make the effort to like learn their language and at least meet them halfway. And I think a lot of people that do know English, if you at least try to say something, whether it's hello or goodbye, they will switch to English just to help you out. But right off the bat, they won't. So you need to remember that. The next thing I would like people to remember in order to make their lives successful wherever they go to is that you cannot run away from your problems. I mean, if you've got problems at home, you're taking your problems with you to the new place. So don't think just because you're there, everything disappears. No, your mental state before you left is going to be terrible. Of course, yeah, it's nice to have, whether it's the beach or, wonderful cities and all that stuff where you are in the new place, But if you left something that's bothering you and your mental problems are still back there and you're thinking of what a disaster you left there, and you think by moving to another place, it's going to be better. No, you need to, as I like to say, you need to get your ducks in a row before you leave. Make sure that you've taken care of whether it's your debt that's going to be hanging over your head, your family problems that, you need to solve before you go, whether it's, settle up things with your kids or parents or what have you. But you need to go there with a clear mindset so that you can enjoy and actually sleep well. Because a lot of people that had problems in their homes, where they're from, still have the same problems here. And they are, they may be nasty, they may be, stressed, they may be whatever, but they're not having a good time. But they're disappointed and they don't realize that it's not something to do with where they are. It's something to do with the mindset that they left with. And so your problems do come with you. Please take care of it before you leave. Otherwise, you're going to go back home with your tail between your legs and you'll still be as miserable, and you'll talk really badly of the place that you were at without realizing that part of the blame is really you. I think a big component to expat success is actually that you have to be willing to change your ways. And in that, I mean, like a lot of places that you go to, everything runs so perfectly in the US and in Canada and wherever you're coming from. But in those countries like Italy, Spain, things don't go as smoothly as they do there. You have to be willing to wait, whether it's for, the bank, whether it's for, going out to eat, whether it's for anything that needs to, we went to change our address and it takes like 2 hours in line, even with an appointment sometimes, and you're just waiting. It seems like you're constantly waiting for something. And that's just the way it is. And if you don't have the mindset of like, it's going to be slower than I'm used to, I need to adjust to that and just let it flow. I mean, you've heard everything where they go, yeah, people just tell you mañana, mañana, but that's really the way it is. You have to know that things don't progress as fast as you can. So if you're a type A personality who really like gets upset and, hates everything and everyone because it doesn't work the way you're supposed to have it work, at least the way you think in your mind, and you're not willing to change your mindset and change the way that you interact with people and see it for what it is. Don't see it for what you want it to be. You have to see it for what it is. Because in the end, you're just only going to frustrate yourself, hate the place that you're at, and you have a horrible time. And that's not good for you or the place that you're in. You just need to know that things are going to be changing and you need to be able to adjust for that. So if you don't have that mindset from the beginning, you're not really setting yourself up for success at all. I'm not going to go over this one too much because I've said it at least a few times. You need to have your money behind you. You need to have the funds, whether it's going to be the funds to move, the funds to do the paperwork, the funds to live in. Don't forget, you're going to need money for rent. You're going to need, money to live on. You're going to need so many things. And money is king. Cash is king. And it's always going to be like that everywhere you go. So you can't really depend on the kindness of strangers. You need to have some sort of emergency fund or some sort of backup money to help you, not just not just when you get there, but for actually staying there. I know some people go to places like, Asia where it's cheap and they have like, 2 or 3 months to go. But what if it takes you longer to find a job or to get your business running or to do whatever, or just to plan for emergencies? I mean, think about the pandemic, for instance. Could anybody have predicted this in March? No, we were all going about our lives, everybody making their plans. And unfortunately, we were all in for a shock. And if you were prepared money-wise, then you made out okay than people who weren't. You weren't stuck someplace, you could go back home. So you need to have some sort of backup plan. So, you know, your backup plan to the backup plan sometimes even, but it's important to have the money factor behind you. And I mean, you can't say that enough. In the last video or 2 videos ago, I mentioned about the exchange rates. So that's something you also want to take into account as far as like when your money goes down. You know, it's expected. Right now, a lot of people on Facebook are complaining because the dollar is like weak compared to the euro and it's gone down, and they're going, ouch, ouch. You know, it's down to like 82 cents or something at the time of this, and it's expected to go down even further. So if you have a set amount of money, it affects everybody. So if you have a set amount of money, then it might, you know, make a difference into how much your money is changed into. So you definitely want to have that cushion to help you over the humps. So it's really important not just to have the finite amount of money, you want to have a little bit excess in the back to help even things out and make things a little bit better, make your life a little bit better. We've all seen those expectation versus reality photos where, you know, you go to the Great Wall of China, you're expecting it to be like, you know, you're the only person there, and then the reality is like there's a million people there vying for space, or the, you know, trying to look at the Mona Lisa, for instance, at the Louvre. So we all know examples of that. I think when you come, don't forget to lower your expectations. You will not be disappointed if you have lowered expectations. Now, if you have great expectations, then you might be disappointed, because when you get there and you see that it's not what you pictured, then it means, you know, it messes with your mind. So you need to like make sure that you're not coming in with rose-colored glasses. Even if you visited before and you were a tourist, realize that it's different when you're coming there to live, because all of a sudden you're not in the center, you're not, you know, out there spending money every day. You're doing the regular things that people do, whether it's going to the grocery store, you know, getting your mail done, do your laundry. These are things that will impact your life on a daily basis. So you need to just make sure that you realize that just because you're moving to another country doesn't make everything all, you know, rosy. And take off those glasses before you live and before you leave where you're going to, and expect it to be what it is once again. The last point I want to make is about believing, you know, everything that you read. I know I say over and over again, you've got to like realize that you can't get all your information from one source. We've seen that with politics, for instance, where people tend to listen to one side and that's it. And they don't really care what maybe scientists say, what, you know, their eyes, they only believe what they hear from one particular place. And you need to do your research and make sure that you're not just reading those magazines or those videos that only paint the rosy pictures of everything. You need to take it all into account. One of the reasons I had started my blog was because I couldn't really find any information I needed on Malta, the cost of living, you know, all that stuff. I saw a bunch of magazines telling me it was only going to be like $1,000 for, you know, a couple and all that stuff. And, you know, if you were to believe that and you base your funds on that, you'll be really disappointed, because you see that your money doesn't last as long as you think it's going to last. You have to like read between the lines and don't believe everything that you read. Don't believe that it's so cheap that you can live on $500 a month or anything. It just doesn't happen. Depends on, well, anyway, it depends on what kind of a life you want to. We lead a middle-class life. We're not out there like some of our friends eating every night, because once, you know, one reason is we cannot afford to be eating out 2 or 3 meals a day. And 2, I don't believe in eating out that many times a day. I like to stay home and eat. And, you know, I don't like to do things that are super expensive. Our main goal, our main hobby, I guess, would be travel. So I would rather save my money for travel than go out and spend it on food that I'll forget the next day or what have you, even if it's a Michelin star restaurant, I don't really care. I just want to travel, and that's the overriding factor. So I would rather waste my money on that. If it's a waste, I would rather waste my money on those kind of experiences. But if you're the kind of person that believes that they're telling you that you can live a rosy life for so little money, take it with a grain of salt and try and find a bunch of places to get your information from, because you don't want to be disappointed overall. And you will save yourself a lot of grief and a lot of envy, I guess, of seeing other people doing what you pictured yourself doing but you couldn't do because you listened to just one side of the story and not the actual real side of the story. The other thing that most of the magazines and online vlogs and whatever will tell you is that you can buy property for so little where you're going to. And it's sometimes true, you can buy for so little. But the thing I always recommend first is, even if you think, or even if you know that you're going to like a place, you really need to rent first and don't buy. I think a lot of times we've run into this also, and I've written about it in blogs 4 years ago, what have you. We met at least a few people in Malaga that bought right off the bat because they saw that the prices were so little and compared to where they were coming from, and the magazines led them to believe that it's a good buy or what have you, and they bought, and they were sitting on the property 2-3 years down the line, because it's not like the US, for instance, where you can sell your house in like a day or two, and I've done it before. But here it's more like you sit on the property for a long time, years, and nobody comes by to look at it. And sometimes it's not about the price, it's the location, it's the neighbors, it's everything. So if you rent first, you have the choice of picking up and moving. We started out in Malaga and didn't like it. We went to Seville, we didn't like it. And experimental expatting, just like we didn't like Malta, but we weren't going to stop. We kept going until we got to Valencia, and then we thought, hey, this is where we could stay. But even it took us going into the third year to actually buy something, because we wanted to make sure that we were going to love the place and be willing to stay there for a very, very, very long time, which we are. So the first year we rented, and then we said, yeah, we like it. The second year, we're like, you know what? Let's rent for one more year just to be on the safe side. And then the third year came along, we're like, hey, we really like it. So then that's when we started looking for a place after the lease of that apartment expired, and we moved to a different section of the city. But, I have friends that are stuck in their apartments because the noise is driving them crazy. Construction noise, because they're right in the center of town, because everybody's there. And, of course, people come in, buy the properties, and they start remodeling just like they were in the US. So they have to contend with that all day long. And, everybody's like, you got to buy earplugs and, be around the house until 10 p.m. because there's constant construction. And it's just insane. But even if you're living in a house, your neighbors may be doing construction. There are all these things. So you need to, barking dogs are a very big problem. And if you're stuck with somebody who's got dogs, you're screwed. So, I think your mindset, knowing that you're going to rent a place at least for a little while, and then you can move once you find a place that you like, I think is a good thing. So don't let them tuck you into buying a place sight unseen, or not visiting it and not doing your proper homework. So don't let that affect how you go into a place, because having that burden of like, what if I don't like it, and all that stuff affects you. So once you're there, trust me, the properties are not going anywhere, no matter what they tell you. There is plenty everywhere. So that's my video for today, and I hope you like it. If you do, please don't forget to subscribe to the channel. And thank you so much. We've started a newsletter as well. So, you can join the newsletter. I'll put the link down below if you want to see what happens sometimes behind the lines, behind the screen. whatever, behind whatever. So thank you.